Hey guys, this is the experience of a purple pill guy who can afford to be one. This is also a guide for all the married men who are thinking about ways to protect their assets in a divorce. Let's listen to his experience.
Originally posted this in Ask TRP, thought it would be a good addition here. This post will hopefully show men considering marriage how to avoid massive asset losses in the event of a divorce. I have always been a very shrewd man when it comes to my finances. Not so much when it comes to my romantic relationships. But I'm working on it now. My story starts in the mid-90s. I had recently finished my surgical residency and moved out to a state with a severe doctor shortage. I was pulling down well into 7 figures annually. However, I myself was working for this money, and I always believed that having others working for you is the way to generate true wealth. So, I began to open various hotel franchises, restaurant franchises, apartment buildings, etc. I was always concerned about a lawsuit, because well, doctors get sued a lot, and I did not want to lose money to that. So, I began researching into asset protection. The best way to protect one's assets is through an irrevocable trust. This is a trust where you are the beneficiary of all the assets within, meaning you do not own them, and creditors cannot take them, but you can still access them. Unfortunately, in most states, one cannot set up an irrevocable trust for himself. Nevada, however, is an exception to this. You can establish a spendthrift trust, which is essentially an irrevocable trust, without being called one. So, I converted my franchises and properties into company stock, and then moved these stocks into an account in a trust in Nevada. Now, it's the early 2000s, and my company is making slightly more than my salary as physician. So, I quit working as a doctor and moved full-time to manage my company. At this point, I was 39 years old, and I began to think about marriage. So, I began to date seriously. At the time, I had courtside tickets to the NBA team in my city. So I ended asking out one of the team cheerleaders. She's a total 10 out of 10 bombshell. I thought I was very lucky at the time, as she was the most beautiful woman I had ever been with. In retrospect, she was clearly a slut, and I beta bucks. She gave birth to our first child in 2003, and we got married in 2003, before she gave birth. However, before our wedding, and before even setting the date, I had seen my parents divorce, my brother get divorced, and several friends, so I was wary. I consulted an attorney, and we drew up a prenup. At this time, I was already very wealthy, especially after investing prudently, after the dot-com bubble popped. I had a net worth in the mid-8 figures, and profits were well into the 7 figures, most of it was already protected in my Nevada trust. The prenup stipulated that she would get $250,000 for every child, and $100,000 for each year of marriage. She was only making $30K a year, so I was being generous. The prenup was signed before we even set the date, and we both had separate representation. Also, the signing was videotaped with a retired judge mediating, so it was clear there was no coercion. My paranoia ended up paying off later on. Fast forward several years, it is 2009, and we have one more kid born in 2004. Our sex life has tapered off quite a bit. It is not nearly dead bedroom, but it is only duty sex, twice a month. She often would use sex to manipulate me. I had become quite depressed. I had put on a lot of weight due to stress. I had lost about half my net worth in the recession, and to see all that vanish after years of work was awful. To compound this, I find out that my wife has been cheating on me. I believe his kids were several years older than mine, at the school they went to. I thought about what to do. My girls were my main concern, and I didn't want to risk losing them at such a young age. I was also worried about confronting my wife. I was angry at my wife, the world, her affair partner. I had done everything I was supposed to do, and I was losing a lot of money, and my wife was cheating on me. I have always been a vindictive sob, so I plotted my way out of the situation. Most of my anger was directed to the dude. Surprisingly, he worked at the time at a company that supplied a lot of the stuff to hotels. I called the company up, and they fired him. Keep in mind, this was during the midst of the recession. The guy lost his job, got divorced, lost kids, and from what I know, now lives in a shitty apartment. It was shitty what I did, but I don't regret it. As far as I know, my wife didn't cheat on me after things ended with the other man. This was a wake-up call for me. I started to spend a lot more time with my girls, and my relationship with my wife actually improved. However, I knew that long-term, I could not stay with someone who had cheated on me. So I began to prepare myself financially and emotionally for the divorce. Our house was very expensive, and we had joint ownership over it, so I was afraid of losing it in a divorce. So, I took out 2 mortgages on it, and began to put as many of our expenses as possible into credit card debt. My businesses had returned to profitability. I could have taken a much larger salary than I did. However, I kept it artificially low, so that when I filed for divorce, possible child support would be calculated from a lower income. Fast forward to 2015. My girls are a bit older, and I have been spending a lot more time with them, and have been really enjoying it, which actually surprised me. My wife and I now only have sex once a month, and whenever I do what I want, she just gets horrible and nasty, worst things I've ever heard. Men who have been in a bad marriage, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So I finally file for divorce. As I expected, she tries to challenge the prenup and go for half my stuff. By this time, my net worth had fully recovered, so she would have gotten just a massive payout. Luckily, the prenup was pretty solid. And I also had a little bit of leverage. The debt, which was considered both of ours, was accumulated. Our lawyers negotiated that she would not challenge the prenup, as long as I get all of the debt. I could wipe it out in a year, if I wanted to, so I readily agreed. So, in exchange for the 12 or 13 years of marriage, she got $1,300,000, plus $500,000, for our 2 girls. This ended up being around 3% of my net worth. Due to all the time I spent with my girls, we ended up getting 50-50 as custody, no child support. Fast forward to today. I end up having my girls, most of the time, as their mother is off slutting or partying around. I think she felt she ended her youth too early. Our daughters have lost respect for her, which in truth does hurt, because I will always feel something for their mother. Luckily though, I have a long-term girlfriend, who sets a fine example for my daughters. After my divorce, I started lifting, and I am truly the captain now, so to say. I anticipate having to pay my wife in the future, though, to stay until my girls are 18, because she has almost already gone through the settlement, from what I have heard. Takeaways. Spend a lot of time with your kids. 1. You'll love it. 2. It'll help you in custody battles. Obviously get a prenup. 1. Have it signed before the date is set. 2. Separate lawyers. 3. Signing is videotaped with a mediator present. Use trusts to protect yourself. If you have a friend or brother you trust a lot, you can both set up irrevocable trusts for each other. Don't be a beta bucks. I was out of shape for much of the time, and was not physically attractive to women. A good standard I now have, is I have my childhood me, look up to who I am now, or want me as a dad.
He is just a clever man, who knows how to protect his assets. After all, you must know what you get in a marriage. Love is not real and lasting. Sex is no more to be seen. A barren life is what married guys usually end up with. Always, avoid emotional decisions, and make logical decisions. If you like to hear more of these experiences, comment, rate and subscribe. Don't forget to bang the bell. You can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/storyredpill. What better way to save a brother than sharing your story? Send your stories to redpill.story@gmail.com. Contribute at patreon.com/redpillstory. Cheers. See you tomorrow.